Need Pokemon Go PvP coaching? Well, I'm a Metafy, so click the link in the video description to take you right to my page. What's up, guys? Have a very exciting video once again. Looks a little bit familiar, doesn't it? But then again, what doesn't? Once you've made this many teams, a lot of things are not exactly repeats, but little substitutions that try and give yourself a little bit of an edge in the meta. Before we get into the video, quick shout out to my Patreon supporters. Could not be doing this without you guys. But yeah, let's take a look. So this is, the most XL team I've ever run in my entire Ultra League career. We have Talonflame, Shiftry, and Obstagoon. Also 2 hundos on this team. Shiftry, not a very meta XL Pokemon, but one that I feel like has kind of been forgotten about, especially in Ultra League, or Open Ultra League as opposed to Remix or Premier. Just being able to deal with Giratina and Cresselia very well, alongside dealing with Swampert. It kind of just has a lot of play against the original big three. Now, the meta for the Ultra League Open is a little bit different than it used to be. It's not just about Cress and Giratina. The XLs are slowly starting to flood in. There's a lot of Talonflame, a lot of Obstagoon, obviously pairing with it. This is a very similar team to the one I just ran in Great League with Talonflame, Shiftry, and Scrafty. I just don't have an XL Scrafty, otherwise I might have just tried the entire exact same thing. And also very similar to a lot of the teams I've run in Ultra League Open in the past with Talonflame and Obstagoon core right there. Shiftry just makes a great safe swap in this team to bring out the fighters that Obstagoon and Charmers that Obstagoon really does not want to have any play into, while being able to switch into Swampert, whereas the previous Amok team could not swap into Swampert. Or, I mean, you had to swap into Swampert, but it wasn't an ideal situation. Take a look at movesets. Talonflame, standard moveset. Shiftry, standard moveset. Obstagoon, we're running Cross Chop. I know if you have been paying attention to the video instead of just listening to me talk, my Obstagoon currently has Gunk Shot. It was a mistake. It was, I just forgot to change the moveset to Cross Chop. So you're going to see me run Gunk here for a little bit before I swap over, and immediately I'm getting punished here by not having Cross Chop ready to go for this Regirock. Now it's nice that I have 2 shields, or I mean a shield remaining, but I'm in Stone Edge range, so it will be very tough to take this Regirock out. With Cross Chop, definitely would be extremely low at this point. I swapped to Talonflame to force them to throw Stone Edge before I get to a move. And then hopefully my Obstagoon can just barely make it to that Night Slash before they get to Stone Edge. But yeah, this game would have not been nearly so close or so scary had I just gone to that Cross Chop in time. But yeah, that's game number 1, I believe. Yeah, games are a lot longer in Ultra League, so bear with me. Alright, Shadow Gyarados lead. This is not a good lead. We're going to go straight into Shiftry here. And in comes the Charmer. So, obviously not ideal here, but Shiftry can threaten Alolan Ninetales with a couple of Leaf Blades. Unfortunately, unlike in Great League, this is not enough to force them to shield. That's kind of why I like Ultra League, or Great League, a little bit better than Ultra League. There's a lot of situations where you can take shields off your opponent if you can't take Switch. Whereas in Ultra League, the general bulk of these Pokemon allow for the strong type matchups to mean a lot more and make it a lot harder to flip those with skill, I guess. In comes the Gyarados again. It's actually a Waterfall Gyarados, not a Dragon Breath Gyarados. So we're going to hit it with the Brave Bird and then swap out, guaranteeing that shield advantage for the Charmers in the back. So I actually do have Gunk Shot this time. I normally don't, so we'll throw it, but it doesn't even KO. And this was when I decided to TM Gunk Shot off, was if you land the Gunk Shot, you still don't actually beat the Charmer. So, if anyone was wondering if Gunk Shot Goon was still viable, this is kind of the lesson or the example on why it's kind of not. So, I think I TM'd my Goon here. We'll see when he actually comes out. We have a Swampert lead, obviously what we don't want to see. I'm going to swap into Goon on this one. This is a bit different, and we do have that Night Slash, and in comes Venusaur. So because they did swap a little bit slow, I do have the potential to maybe win back Switch or Shield here. Yeah, I decide to no shield the first one, I think, because You can live 1, so why shield the first one? It's nice to know how much health you're going to have remaining, so you can plan out your next moves. And then throw some more Night Slashes and kind of get them to shield if they want switch. I think I decided to shield once more, so I can force their shields down. Of course, it would be great for them to let me have switch and get my Shiftry on their Swampert, but I know that they... Whoa, actually they do want that in this case. So in this case, unfortunately, that's going to be a full Mudshot down. The fortunate thing, though, is in Ultra League, Swamperts rarely run Sludge Wave. They're usually running Earthquake instead. So I'm going to come with the Shiftry, tank a move. It's going to be a Hydro Cannon, I'm sure. Oh, it's an Earthquake, yeah, so they nuke me with the Earthquake. And like I said, none of this really does any damage at all. I'm surprised they blind through the Earthquake, considering my Talonflame was there. If I'd come back in with Talonflame, it would have been a different story. But yeah. Gonna come in, and they're gonna try and catch a move. And I was watching for the catch, so it's definitely time to swap out at that point. I bank the Leaf Blade, so that Leaf Blade will come in very handy, being able to take down that Swampert later. I'm not sure who wins CMP versus Shiftry and Swampert. I think Shiftry probably wins, though. But either way, Swampert is going to have to throw a move. I still have a shield for my Shiftry, so this game is not even all that close either. I'm going to just throw this Leaf Blade. And Shiftry will be able to take home yet another game. Yep, Shiftry, yeah, I don't know why most people haven't built one of these. It's not one of the common XL Pokemon yet, but same thing as in Great League. It's so spammy. Leaf Blade is probably the best move in the entire game. Empoleon lead once again. See, this is the problem with Talonflame lead nowadays. It feels like you're losing every single lead matchup. So that's why I'm not really sure I can 100% recommend a Talonflame team if you are getting hard countered like this. But as you can see, I've flipped a lot of these matchups so far. I'm going to no shield here because I assume that they're going to bait me as well. And Gengar is a bit of a weird switch into Shiftry. Maybe they're forgetting that there's a dark typing, and this is what happens when you use Pokemon that other people don't usually or aren't used to seeing either, is that they don't know the matchups. So I'm going to shield once just in case it actually is a Sludge Bomb, and just throw that Foul Play. We not only win switch, but also shield advantage here, and are going to be able to get our Talonflame off of that Empoleon and our Goon onto that Empoleon. Somewhat unfortunately, it's another water type in the back, but this is Talonflame's kind of only chance here to do anything. So we're going to send Talonflame in, soak up the energy. They actually very smartly, oh no, they go for the Octazooka, attack Harshly Fell, and then just going to go for the Brave Bird. Doesn't really matter if the attack Harshly Fell here. Brave Bird does an absolute ton of damage, going to KO the Kingdra, and I'm going to get into Obstagoon with a shield advantage versus an Empoleon. Once again, another lost lead where we end up with a shield advantage at the end of the game, and we win. Not just ending up with shields and losing, which is honestly not too impossible with all the double charm I've been seeing. And speaking of Charmers, we have not a Charmer. It is a Snarl Granbull, of course. When it's finally lined up with my Talonflame, we have a Snarl. I'm going to throw the Flame Charge here. It's still a decent matchup. You only have to really worry about the crunches. And obviously you're going to let the first one through. It could debuff, right? So if you shield the first one, you're at high risk of taking extra damage from the second one when you can't afford to shield anymore. At this point, I have 2 shields. And I could have just let that go down, but I just don't have good farm down potential for Granbull. And I decide to shield twice because I can end this with a ton of energy. So with a Brave Bird and almost a half loaded against a team with no shields, they quit. So Talonflame might have actually been able to sweep this whole team. We're going to grab 4 wins with the incorrect moveset Goon on our first ever set with Talonflame, Shiftry, Obstagoon. And roll right into no, not remix, because a couple of these Pokemon are banned. But straight into open, and we see Kingdra lead. This is absolutely awful. I'm going to get right into Shiftry here, and in comes the Escav. This one is a bit tough. I'm going to throw the Foul Play first for sure. Foul Play does quite a bit of damage, over half. So if they do throw something like an Acid Spray here, and you live, you're still going to get to another Foul Play. And force a shield, and win shield advantage. So that's what you want to do in these situations, especially when you have something like Talonflame that can tank all this energy and you don't need to worry about it. Every move is resisted by Talonflame, so this shield advantage is free, grabbing a little bit of extra energy, and holy cow, that defense drops absolutely chunk. I went for the other Incinerate because I was hoping to Brave Bird and dip the Kingdra, but unfortunately they actually made a very smart play here and did not. Oh man, gotta love getting the boost. And they came in with the Empoleon instead, as the Empoleon resists Brave Bird, which is the main charge move nuke that you want to be throwing. I'm going to shield up there on my Goon, and because of the boost, I'm not even too worried if I get the attack debuff here. As long as I take down the Kingdra, this Empoleon is history. And I'm just going to go for the boost, get this boost RNG going, since a Night Slash should probably KO here at any rate. And yeah, that game is history. Obstagoon, just a little bit too powerful versus the Empoleon in the back. But this is how a lot of these games will go. You bait out the counter user, the Escav, the Scrafty, something like that with the Shiftry, and then out comes the Obstagoon to just clean up. Another Gyarados, this time it's likely not Waterfall. Yeah, we have Dragon Breath Gyarados, and in comes Alolan Muck, so this is kind of a tough switch in, especially the Poison Jab version, because it can just farm all the way down. And because it can farm all the way down, that means it's going to be able to pressure Talonflame with these super effective charge moves as well. So I'm going to throw out the good timing to try and maximize the amount of Leaf Blades I can get in here. And going to barely be able to get into get to 3. So third Leaf Blade is not enough to KO, and this is the problem when in Ultra League things are a little bit too tanky. You're going to have to come in with the Talonflame and absorb not 1, but 2 Dark Pulses, and obviously we're not going to shield. Remember, if you lose lead, lose switch, you don't shield. The Acid Spray even. And I'm going to try and get to the third one and get to that Brave Bird. Because if anything, I want to create a shield advantage for my Obstagoon in the back. And they're going to swap out right away. So this is a bit of a tough one. I think this is a damned if you do, damned if you don't. I call the bait because it doesn't make sense for them to go straight Brave Bird there. That's their loss condition. And then I try and stay healthy enough such that I can take down this Gyarados. I will have to shield, but I have 2 shields remaining and not very much health, so honestly it's probably better that they're doing that. Oh, looks like I only clicked my Night Slash once, but I think my Goon did a little stutter, so I did 2 counter animations. I'm going to throw at 4 there, because at 4 you don't take the Incinerate damage. And then in comes the Gyarados, and I was kind of just more practicing my mechanics there. It's always important to remember when to throw versus Talonflame, more so than other Pokemon, because you don't want those Incinerates sneaking through. And remember, those timings are 2 is good, 7 is good, and 4 is okay. Especially if you don't want to take the damage, then 4 is the best. Politoed lead, another terrible lead. I feel like I'm switching out immediately. I probably should have went into Obstagoon here, because Shiftry is the much better matchup versus the Toad. In hindsight, that's probably what I would have done. Obviously, Shiftry is the better matchup versus Gramble too, so it kind of does work out. Shiftry going to be able to grab a shield against a Charmer. Or switch, actually. So Shiftry wins switchback versus Gramble. Gonna come in with the Politoed. Actually, Shiftry wins the 0 shield versus Gramble. That's insane. Unfortunately, it doesn't do the same to the other tankier Charmers, but either way, got to get the Goon in on this Politoed. Just charging up an absolute ton because I'm expecting them to switch out at this point. But they don't seem to want to switch. And that makes me a little bit nervous about no shielding all these moves, as maybe Obstagoon is also good against whatever's in the back, which means Talonflame likely won't be. But then they start shielding their Politoed. So that confirms my suspicions, and we're going to try and take out this Politoed by any means necessary. Finally going to grab the boost here. And yeah, out comes the Umbreon, and they just leave. So yeah, Umbreon, a Pokemon that Obstagoon destroys, but Talonflame is not too bad against either, so that one was in the bag regardless. Next game, we have a Deoxys lead. Another not great lead. Deoxys normally comes with the Rock Slide, a move that's 4 times super effective. In this case, I was prepared to shield once, but I really feel like I do need to Brave Bird and dip here. Because the counters are what deal damage to my backline. And if this Deoxys already has energy, then I have a leg up on the Deoxys, as it's going to have to throw either resisted charge moves or weak charge moves at my Shiftry and Obstagoon, which would be ideal, as opposed to throwing 4 times super effective moves into my Talonflame. In this case, Alolan Ninetales. Kind of a tough switch in for Shiftry. You deal quite a bit of damage, but at the same time, this thing gets to move so fast it even pressures Talonflame. I'm going to be forced to spend a shield here if I want to live. And I don't. Yeah. Bit of a weird one there. I really should throw my move to take it out at that point, instead of let them get to another Weather Ball, but hindsight's 2020. This Deoxys comes in, it has an absolute ton of energy, and unfortunately at this point it doesn't even need it, because I've let my Talonflame get so low. This Deoxys can honestly double shield and just farm down the Obstagoon, so yeah, they reveal the Rock Slide there. I'm really uncertain why they didn't throw it on my Talonflame in the first place before I Brave Bird and dipped. I think throwing at 7 would have been their best play, but everyone makes mistakes, and I probably made more than anyone in this particular game. Yeah, just fighting to the end here. I think I really wanted to see what their last Pokemon was, to see if it was a beatable team if I hadn't messed up. And it's Trevenant, so it honestly might have been winnable there. Had I just taken out that Alolan Ninetales and maybe gotten some Incinerate damage on that Deoxys. Alright, Cresselia lead. This is another pretty good lead. The entire team kind of deals with it well. The way to play Cresselia leads, got to tank a move on the Talonflame. So I'm charging up until they throw. Then I'm going to Brave Bird and dip. Yeah, and just a Moonblast. Moonblast is good because it doesn't do much. Feature Sight would deal a lot more damage, but if it's Feature Sight, then you don't have to worry about the baits. I'm going to come in with Shiftry and throw a Leaf Blade at Articuno. So reminder, flying resists grass. Throw foul plays here. Like, that was so bad. Like, I don't even know what I was doing. Gotta throw foul play. Even though ice doesn't resist grass, flying does. And they get a little bit greedy with their farm. Gonna be able to throw a foul play here, even though maybe a Leaf Blade might have been enough to force a shield. But they CMP tie. And this is a great scenario. They throw some energy. I'm gonna be able to come in with my Talonflame. I have 1 shield advantage. But Articuno does run Ancient Power, and I know this, but at the same time, if you lose lead, you can't afford a shield. Ancient Power is such a bad move, though. It doesn't actually take out the Talonflame. I'm going to swap out with that move, because throwing another Incinerate would take me out. And then I'm going to come with Obstagoon, shield up the Moonblast, which is going to deal maybe the most damage out of anything, is my guess. Moonblast deals quite a bit to Obstagoon. Going to grab their last shield. This is a tough one. Do I shield this last Moonblast? I do not, because I'm scared of a Registeel in the back, or something with a one-shot mechanic, and it's a Giratina, so not the Giratina I was expecting. I honestly thought it was going to be Giratina altered, but this is just as good here. I'm going to throw Night Slash, more Night Slashes. It's like I'm playing Obstagoon. I'm going to shield this up, actually, because as long as because if it was a Dragon Pulse, I lose. But I do have a move on my Talonflame. So it really doesn't matter if this Cresselia takes out my Goon. I'm able to just throw a Brave Bird here, or a Flame Charge, doesn't really matter, and end this game. So that's looking at your win condition there. Obviously, this Giratina did not have Dragon Pulse, but if it was running Dragon Pulse, I would lose the game by no shielding there. Whereas I'd found a separate win condition as opposed to making the call to no shield that, and then charging up to 2 Night Slashes and taking both of them out with Obstagoon. Alright, Machamp lead. This is a bit tricky because Machamp can actually beat Talonflame in a lot of these even shield scenarios. I'm going to trust that they don't swap out here. Just go straight for the Flame Charge. Yeah, it's a bit scary. We CMP tie there. They throw a move 99% of the time at Cross Chop, but gonna shield it anyways, because with my back line, the goal is just to deal as much damage to this Machamp as possible. And yeah, gonna have to shield once again. I want to make sure that Incinerate damage goes through. But they actually swap, and I'm gonna swap too. I see that Umbreon come in, and I'm immediately into my Goon. I'm not gonna mess around throwing a Brave Bird and dipping. Goon has such a solid matchup versus Umbreon that there's no real need for any of this. And they are running Last Resort. It's unfortunate it's not a Psychic Umbreon. This means I can't just farm all the way down. Only 90% of the way down now. So tanking Last Resort, tank another Last Resort, and Goon can tank one more Last Resort. So I didn't want to chance it because if I get too low, they can swap back in to their Machamp and snipe my Goon. I just want to have a move loaded so this Machamp cannot come back in. And I was so sure Machamp would come back in. I pressed the cross chop button, and this might be game losing. So Talonflame comes in. Gonna throw my Brave Bird immediately because I need to deal some damage to this thing. And they're gonna throw a move, but unfortunately they have 2 moves, I think. So I have to choose which Pokemon to sacrifice here. Which one's it gonna be? I'm gonna sacrifice my Obstagoon because it's at half health already, but my Shiftry's not in a great position right here. So Shiftry comes in against Machamp, gonna snarl it down, but look how much damage it took in the process. But one more snarl is gonna be enough to get to a Leaf Blade and take out this Talonflame. So, reminder: grass is resisted by flying, but it doesn't feel good to take out a flyer with a Leaf Blade, especially a fire flyer. All right, Ninetales, let's hope it's Charm because the Weather Ball version, they both have Weather Ball. The Powder Snow version apparently can beat Talonflame in the 2-shield. So I've learned my lesson before. I tried to farm it down before. In this case, I'm just throwing my moves. We got to get this damage on the Ninetales ASAP. Gonna no-shield the first one, but you have to shield the second one. And this is the thing. These Weather Ballers get to their moves so quickly. And they actually make a great catch onto their Talonflame, and essentially this game is over at this point. I'm going to stay in. And because they got to move through on my turn, I have to let this go. And it's kind of, I don't want to say hopeless at this point, but it's kind of hopeless. I couldn't go in with Shiftry because they're already boosted. I actually tried to make a catch on Shiftry to sacrifice it. But unfortunately, my switch button didn't work. I don't know if you guys saw me click that. I clicked at the perfect timing for the switch too, and it just, maybe it lagged, maybe the switch button just not working. But either way, I could not get that move off. In comes a Flame Charge. And this one could be top lefted a long time ago. Yeah, there's the Scrafty. So another big thing here is the Scrafty. Scrafty is a big issue for the back line. And if it doesn't come out in the initial switch in, and in this case, I didn't really switch at all. They did. So that's why Scrafty was allowed to be in the back here. In these other games, you notice that my backline is not just getting ravaged by fighters the whole time. And that's because of tried and true ABB strategy. Alright, Galarian Stunfisk. This is a pretty good lead too, because Talonflame does beat this Pokemon, but we can switch out because the backline also beats this Pokemon. In comes Talonflame. We're going to throw with good timing. That's 3 Snarls. It's a 3-turn move, not a 2-turn move. So you want to throw 3 or 1 if you don't want to take the damage. And so I didn't want to take the damage here. Also, I'd have to throw 3 for good timing. I want to get that out before they throw Flame Charge because I'm not planning on shielding. This is not a good scenario for Shiftry, but you can win shields back. And it is a tough decision what to come in with next. And I'm just going to plan on farming this thing all the way down. No, that's a lie. If they Brave Birded, maybe, actually I don't think it would have been possible. Brave Bird would have taken me out because they boosted. So I'm going to throw the Flame Charge there once I get to 100. In comes the G-Fisk, and this is a boosted Flame Charge, so very certain that they don't want to take this. Going to swap right away though anyways, even though I'm double boosted. And there's the core breaker right there. G-Fisk Trevenant, a very decent core. Main problem is Obscure and Scrafty, and I've got one of those in the back. I'm sure they didn't appreciate getting core broken there, and also both of those are core broken by Talonflame. So 2 core breakers to that duo are both on this team. Venusaur lead, here we go. Good lead. Gyarados comes in, and we don't have a guaranteed way to take back Switch versus Gyarados on this team. Gyarados puts out a lot of fast move pressure, has some pretty fast charge moves. It's quite good at winning back Switch. Gonna no shield here because Shiftry resists both of the charge moves. I'm gonna throw another Leaf Blade. I decide to shield up here, I think, because I think I can get to another move. And grab another shield. Shields down is great for Talonflame to land those Brave Birds. But funnily enough, you actually you do win the 2 shield with Shiftry here. And I'm going to win the 2v1 because they were trying to farm me all the way down and store some energy. Yeah, you just get to those moves just fast enough, and I think the 4th Leaf Blade is only 2 Snarls. So that's why I get there and why they didn't think I was going to get there, right? Because if they're counting, obviously they're like, okay, 1, 2, 3, Leaf Blade, 1, 2, 3, Leaf Blade, 1, 2, 3, Leaf Blade, and then all of a sudden 1, 2, Leaf Blade kind of catches you a little bit off guard. Because if that was 1, 2, 3, Leaf Blade, they would have been able to farm all the way down. In this case, Empoleon versus Obscune is what you like to see, shields down at the end. In comes Venusaur. And a little bit of a scary situation because Venusaur can farm this all the way down and throw a couple Sludge Bombs at Talonflame, but the boost makes this game quite a little bit easier, and Obscune's going to be able to get there by itself. No need for the Talonflame to come in. Alright, and I think this is the last game that we've got going on here. It is going to be a Blastoise lead, so yet another water lead. I feel like I've seen like 6 or 7 different water leads this time. Going to go into the Obstagoon. Obstagoon is the preferred choice here because it's a water type, and not a water type that has coverage for Shiftry at a reasonable pace. Stuff like, I'm talking about like Lapras or Gyarados. You can still switch into Shiftry because Obstagoon, or Empoleon, because Obstagoon has a good matchup versus those as well. But in this case, Blastoise versus Obstagoon is pretty neutral, whereas Shiftry is kind of where you want to be at. In this case, I do decide to shield up, because I think I can force a couple of shields in return with Night Flashes. So because I know shield the first one, I think Obstagoon actually wins the one shield. So it's a bit scary because this Talonflame is going to be boosted at the end of this and have an entire move. But because Talonflame's locked into Blastoise, even though this is 9,000% of Brave Bird, there's no reason to shield it because you're just locked into that bad matchup. And I think that's the issue. Is a lot of people, they shield, unfortunately. They shield where they shouldn't be shielding. Sometimes you really have to sit back and ask yourself, what is my shield going to do for me? What is shielding your Talonflame in that case going to do? It's just going to get you locked into that Blastoise matchup, which is what you don't want. In this case, Shiftry is going to make much better use of that shield, even if it's just on a Body Slam or something like that. Either way, Shiftry, maybe the only thing as spammy as Greedent, has pretty much the exact same moveset in terms of energy cost, energy gains. And yep, Shiftry versus Blastoise goes about as well as you would expect. You just throw some Leaf Blades. And wait for the catch, because they're counting. Shiftry's one of the easier Pokemon to count. They'll always go for the catch. Wait for the catch. They'll catch that Snarl. Maybe catch these hands. And then the Leaf Blade will come and smack. Blastoise at the end. Gonna take another positive set here. I believe this is another 4 set. So a lot of wins with this team, and I'd kind of given up on the Talonflame Obstagoon core a little bit, especially last season. I really don't think it's still a good fit for the meta right now. I think it's a very solid core. I just think a lot of people are running water leads. They're sick of Talonflame, honestly. Kind of so am I, but I mean, when you only have 2 XLs and one of them you just built, you kind of take what you can get. Yeah, so this is a little bit less of an accessible team. I tried to run some more accessible teams, but I did not have any success this season around. I'm probably going to switch over to Holiday Cup. Not a big fan of Ultra, as you guys might guess. So look forward to some videos from that. Actually, I'll be out of town this weekend, so there will be no Holiday Cup videos until at the very least Monday. But hopefully, if I've had some success, I'll be able to just rattle those out and have some very cheerful teams going. Yeah, that's it. That's the video. Thanks for watching. Made it this far. Please hit that subscribe button. Actually, no. You know what? You can choose whether or not you'd like to hit the subscribe button or not, because hit the milestone of 10,000 subscribers. Thank you guys so much. It means an absolute ton to me. It's been over a year of YouTube now, like a year and a half of YouTube. So that slow grind towards this thing makes it feel even sweeter. So appreciate it. Thank you.